Hey, it's Rodrigo here. Let's check a few things about recording and reamping with the Quad Cortex. Okay, of course it's possible to record with the Quad Cortex connected to the audio interface in a more traditional way, but that's not what we want here. The idea is to have the Quad Cortex as our only audio device connected to the computer using the USB port. So, first you must download and install the Quad Cortex ASIO driver from neuraldsp's website. Now you have to tell Reaper that the Quad Cortex is our audio device. So let's go to Options, Preferences, and then Audio, Device, and then you can just select neuraldsp USB audio device from this list. By default, it should look like this. With everything connected, we should have the Quad Cortex outputs sending data into Reaper's inputs, and Reaper's outputs sending data into the Quad Cortex inputs. And now maybe it's cool to talk a little bit about Quad Cortex USB channels. The Quad Cortex has 16 USB channels, 8 inputs and 8 outputs. Inputs 1, 2, 3, and 4 cannot be selected as inputs for the grid, but they are selectable from the computer as inputs for the Quad Cortex. The audio received on inputs 1 and 2 will be sent to the XLR and headphones analog outputs. And the audio received on inputs 3 and 4 will be sent to the analog TRS outputs, and that's how I use it here. The other USB inputs can be used as inputs for the grid. Now about the output channels, 1 and 2 cannot be selected as outputs from the grid. By default, the Quad Cortex will send the unprocessed signal or our DI signal into these two outputs. But this behavior can be changed. If we go to Input and Output Settings, find the USB port, and now on page 2 we have this little switch here. By using the switch, we can make the Quad Cortex send the DI signal into outputs 3 and 4 and the processed signal into outputs 1 and 2. And the other output channels can be used as outputs from the grid. So let's record something. I have a preset here and I chose this multiple outputs option, which in this case will be sending the signal to outputs 1, 2, 3, and 4 and USB outputs 3 and 4. And here in Reaper I have it set to record channels 1 and 2, which is our DI signal. And why should we record our DI signal? Well, I think there are many advantages. And for mentioning just two of them, one of them is if you need to edit your guitar track, it's much easier to visualize things when using a DI track. And the other one is the possibility of reamping your DI signal, which means you can send that DI signal through a real amp and record it, or through a plugin, or through the Quad Cortex, which is the way we are going to do here. And you have a completely different tone for your guitar track. So let's create a new track. Let's just turn off the monitoring. This is important for not making a lot of noise. And let's do it. Let's record. Nice. Even if you're listening to the processed signal, what Reaper should be recording here is the DI. Let's check it out. Yep. So now if you want Reaper to record the processed signal, we must assign the correct inputs and outputs here. Let's go to the Reaper inputs here and set to the output channels 3 and 4, which is the outputs from the grid. And let's record it again. Let's create a new track and turn off the monitor. And let's record again. Nice. So let's look what we have here. Let's take a listen. Perfect. Well, that's cool, but it would make no sense if we had to perform once for recording the DI signal and then again for recording the processed track. We want both at the same time, so let's do it. Let's check our inputs here. Let's set the one of them for the DI signal and the other one for output 3, which is the output from the grid. This way we can create one track which will receive the signal from the DI signal, and the other one, the other track, which will receive the signal from the grid, which is output 3. This way, by doing this, we can record and have both of the recordings at the same time. We'll have the DI signal and the processed signal recorded at the same time, which, of course, much easier, right? That's it. Now, for doing the reamping, what we want is to have our DI track going from Reaper into the Quad Cortex grid, and the signal from the Quad Cortex grid coming back into Reaper so it can be recorded. So let's do it. I'll mute this track here and unmute our DI track, and let's just check our inputs and outputs again. Well, the inputs are okay. They are already set to the outputs 3 and 4 from the grid. So let's just set our outputs here to channels 5 and 6. Now I'll create a new track, mute the monitor. And here on the Quad Cortex, let's just choose a different preset so we can have a different tone. And here on the grid, I'll set the inputs to USB input 5. So now when I hit record here, it should send the signal into the grid and receive it back. Let's see what happens. Okay. I will just set the outputs again back so I can listen through my monitors. And let's see what we have here. Yeah, so here we have our reamped track. That's cool, right? And it was fun doing this video. But I think this is all for now. Thanks for watching and see you next time.